Welcome to the world of Dandadan. Dive into a manga series full with ghosts, monsters, aliens, and epic battles. Join us as a boy obsessed with UFOs encounters a girl who believes in ghosts, and together they navigate their differences when faced with the paranormal. My name is DJ Miles. Enjoy the adventure. Feeling upset, Momo Ayase reacts to her boyfriend's request for money in exchange for a date. The situation escalates when he suggests intimacy at a hotel, leading to a heated argument and ultimately their breakup. Heartbroken, Momo confides in her friends, and when asked about what she liked in her ex-boyfriend, she mentions that her only attraction was his resemblance to Ken Takakura, a male actor she admires, which her friends found ridiculous. While wandering the halls with a heavy heart, Momo notices a male student being bullied in a classroom. Taking a stand, she positions herself in front of his desk, glaring at the bullies until they retreat. As she leaves, the grateful male student catches up to her and enthusiastically delves into the topic of UAPS, unidentified aerial phenomenon. However, his passionate ranting annoys Momo, who never intended to befriend him. Despite her initial reluctance, Momo realizes she has hurt his feelings and offers an apology. She clarifies that her beliefs lies in ghosts rather than aliens. Upon telling him this, Momo angrily sees the male student smirking at her with a disapproval that ghosts exist and justifies that her grandmother is a psychic. The disagreement escalates into a heated argument, leading them to challenge each other on the existence of UFOs or ghosts. Later, as night falls, Momo and the male student visit each other's designated areas to determine who is right. While Momo enters the Nagi hospital where the male student suspects UFOs are appearing, the male student arrives at a tunnel where Momo suspects a ghost is appearing. While conversing through the phone, Momo tells her about her past and how she used to hate her grandmother for causing her to be bullied by the boys at her school, including by a boy she liked, due to having to perform a spell her relative instructed her to do. But after realizing her grandmother and her job as a medium had a special meaning to her, she began to believe in ghosts as a result. When Momo asks the male student why he believes in ghosts, he angrily replies, questioning why he needs a reason to like something, until suddenly the male student finds himself face to face with an elderly spirit who offers a chance to, get this, suckle her teats in exchange for him gobbling his slong. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Anyway, the young man flees in terror while refusing to believe that what he saw was an actual ghost he encountered. The ghost is known as the Turbo Granny, and Momo warns him that he will be cursed if he loses a race and is caught by it. As the male student's panic screams reach her over the phone, Momo prepares to rush to his location and provide assistance. However, after looking up in front of her, Momo is alarmed to spot three mysterious figures in the hallway. Attempting to escape, she turns around only to be disrobed and captured by them. Identifying themselves as the Serpo, an alien species who wishes to acquire reproductive functions similar to the human race, one of them reveals a robotic device with the purpose of extracting her reproductive organs. Despite Momo's efforts to break free, she is subdued when the Serpo uses psychokinesis to induce arousal. Before the situation escalates, the ringing of Momo's phone grabs the Serpo's attention, which causes the aliens to become surprised as the Turbo Granny emerges from it and bites off the crotch device on the Serpo. Momo realizes that the ghost is, in fact, the male student under possession and is struggling to maintain control over himself. The Serpo refuses to allow the possessed human to intrude and transforms, but find themselves unable to react on time to its remarkable speed. However, their psychokinetic abilities slam the male student through a wall as he pleads with the Serpo, expressing his lifelong desire to meet aliens, as he had felt alienated and unacknowledged by friends until he met Momo, demanding they do not lay a hand on her. Despite his plea, the Serpo overpowers him with psychokinesis and persists in stimulating Momo's arousal. This triggers her memory of her grandmother's instructions on how to release her chi, which she told the male student earlier. As a result of the Serpo's overstimulating her brain, Momo taps into her latent psychic abilities, breaking free from her restraints. In this moment, she comes to the realization that her grandmother is a real psychic. With a powerful kick, Momo sends the Serpo flying, resulting in the destruction of part of the UFO. Yet, immediately after, Turbo Granny launches herself towards Momo, who successfully suppresses the Turbo Granny's possession of the male student, who urgently warns her that his genitalia has been stolen and that the only way he can be freed from its curse is if they confront it at the tunnel. Having escaped the destruction of the UFO, both Momo and the male student find themselves accepting the reality of both aliens and ghosts. While Momo explains the need for her to stay with him in order to have the curse suppressed, the male student, determined not to burden her further, insists on resolving the situation alone. Despite his intentions, Momo insists on offering her assistance students and suddenly becomes flustered after the male student makes a statement similar to Ken Takakura. After calming herself to dismiss any unfounded suspicions, Momo asks him what's his name and becomes speechless to hear that it's Ken Takakura. Momo, refusing to accept that Takakura shares a name with her idol, informs him that she won't say his name and instead opts for Okarun. Despite his initial reluctance, Takakura agrees. Surprised that it's already morning, Momo says Turbo Granny shouldn't take over Okarun's body and invites him to her house for a change of clothes. However, upon arrival, Momo is shocked to see Okarun on fire, attempting to pass through a torii gate. Using her powers, she throws him into a nearby river. She then realizes that the cause was a talisman attached to the gate that is meant to exorcise evil spirits and removes it to allow Okarun to pass through. After changing clothes, Okarun realizes his genitals are missing and blames Momo, who reminds him that it was his fault after he wanted to talk to her at school. Okarun explains he wanted to make a friend and thought Momo would never be one. Momo points out that he unknowingly distances himself from others and that she is willing to talk about the paranormal with him. Okarun becomes a little teary-eyed after hearing Momo's words, but rudely responds, much to Momo's annoyance. Suddenly, the two hear the sound of the doorbell. Not recognizing the chime, Momo thinks that it might be an evil spirit because her house has two doorbell sounds, one for humans and one for evil spirits. Worried, Momo suggests they go outside to put the protective talisman back on the gate since that was protecting her home. But to their surprise, the atmosphere has shifted to an eerie night. A barrier blocks access to the gate and their home. There is a harmful black mist that is causing them to bleed from their nose, and suddenly a menacing and hostile entity appears. Running from the enemy's attacks, Okarun identifies the creature as the Flatwoods Monster, an alien first sighted in America, later discovered in Japan. He tells Momo that he might be able to fight the alien if she were to suppress the Turbo Granny's curse from his head. Momo agrees, and after the curse is lifted, Okarun shows impressive strength by quickly reacting to the alien's attack, pulling Momo out of harm's way. However, he soon admits to feeling depressed despite his newfound strength, attributing it to his awkward nature. As the Flatwoods Monster tries to crush Okarun, he instinctively bites off the creature's fingers in a quick and decisive move. However, she notices him beginning to suffer from the consequences of moving at an inhumane speed. Suddenly, the alien slams him against the house, but Momo uses her psychic powers to pull him towards her before the Flatwoods Monster could crush him. While struggling to think of a way to defeat the alien, Momo notices the Flatwoods Monster is fighting similarly to a sumo wrestler and believes that they could defeat him if they force him to touch the ground. Using her psychic powers, Momo uses her right hand to suppress Okarun's curse to have him destroy the Flatwoods Monster's right leg. Simultaneously, with her left hand, she pulls the alien's body down, causing his right hand to disintegrate as a result. Despite their attempts to harm him, the Flatwoods Monster adapts, throwing an extra pair of legs to stay upright and violently slams Momo into the wall, blocking the torii gate. While trying to keep Okarun's curse suppressed, Momo endures a brutal beating from the alien, all while hearing Okarun's worried voice. Surprisingly, Momo reveals that she intentionally planned to let the Flatwoods Monster beat her in order to create a crate in the wall, giving her enough space to put the talisman back to its original spot. Summoning her strength, Momo pulls Okarun close and places the talisman back, resulting in the Flatwoods Monster being incinerated and bringing them back to the real world. Relieved that the conflict is over, Momo suddenly faints in front of Okarun, who begins transforming into the Turbo Granny, preparing to launch an attack. Elsewhere, during a broadcast, a psychic named Santa Dodoria gives a reading on a celebrity's profile, but gets corrected each time. After the show, the psychic then takes a taxi home, but decides to walk the rest of the day, concerned that the driver might be in danger if they were to continue driving. Before the Turbo Granny possessed Okarun could devour Momo, it is suddenly struck by a brick with a nail in it, causing it to burst into flames. Momo's grandmother appears on the scene as the surprising hero, stopping the imminent danger just in time. The evil spirit tries to attack the grandmother, but is set ablaze once more. The grandmother reveals that she has placed a mystical barrier around her and has also set one up for the Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny tells the grandmother that the barrier will not hold her for longer, but the grandmother defiantly responds, stating her intention to defeat her. Taking matter into her own hands, the grandmother beats Turbo Granny with her bat and drops a charmed nail, ensuring the defeat of the evil spirit. Later, Momo wakes up in her bed and walks down to find her grandmother watching television. Concerned about Okarun's well-being, since she is not around to suppress his curse, Momo asks her grandmother what happened to him and becomes shocked to learn that her grandmother eliminated the evil spirit. Though she did not deny the mention of the evil spirit, Momo is reminded by her grandmother of the time she called her a fake spirit medium. After apologizing, her grandmother discloses Okarun's whereabouts, and Momo hurries to the shrine, learning that her grandmother placed the evil spirit there. To her relief, Momo discovers that Okarun is still alive. Okarun becomes relieved to see that Momo is alive and well, but has the door slammed on him after Momo overreacts. Momo's grandmother tells Momo that Okarun's curse will not activate as long as he stays inside the shrine, and adds that she lied about killing him since she wanted to tease a desperate Momo. After explaining the situation regarding herself and Okarun, and revealing how she acquired psychic powers, Momo's grandmother informs her that the turbo granny they encountered is a significant problem. Previously known as the 100km/h granny, she used a modern-day yokai causing chaos across the country. Momo's grandmother elaborates that the turbo granny has fused with the bound spirit of the tunnel she was hidden in, gaining immense power. She emphasizes that there isn't a spirit medium alive who can effectively combat it, and cautions Momo against getting involved with Okarun any further. Despite her concerns, Momo expresses her determination to help Okarun, mentioning that's what Ken Takakura would do in her situation. Respecting Momo's resolve, her grandmother agrees and outlines the plan, suggesting they play a game of tag with Turbo Granny. The reason behind this strategy is the Turbo Granny's absolute confidence in her own legs, making her willing to challenge anyone. The ultimate goal is to lure the evil spirit out of Shono City without getting caught, weakening her in the process. Momo refuses, expressing a lack of confidence in her legs for the competition. She suggests using a barrier, pointing at the talisman towards the shrine where Okarun is currently, questioning why they can't place one in the tunnel. Momo's grandmother explains that it's not feasible because the barrier magic restricting Turbo Granny relies on Momo's grandmother borrowing the powers of the local gods. Once outside the city, that power won't be effective, emphasizing that each region has its own god. She insists that the original plan of playing tag is the only viable way of defeating Turbo Granny. Momo's grandmother includes Okarun in the discussion, informing him that he needs to train to go all out in his cursed state. She outlines a regimen for him, including 5 sets of push-ups, sit-ups, back exercises, and squats. For Momo, the focus is on elevating her psychic abilities to a higher level than they currently are. After Momo's grandmother leaves, Okarun apologizes to Momo for looking weak when facing the Flatwoods monster, and that he will try to do better next time. Momo responds back by telling Okarun that she thought that he did well in their fight against the alien, and tells him that she is okay even if she has to save him next time. Later, in the living room, Momo's grandmother watches a television report revealing that the celebrity she performed clairvoyance on as Santa Dodoria has had his secrets exposed. The report validates that the grandmother was right about everything she foretold. Momo dismissively adds, "Who cares about tabloid trash?" The next day, while in the middle of their training, Momo sees that Okarun has to desperately use the bathroom, but refuses to allow him, since it would mean that she would also have to be with him in order to suppress his curse at all times. She then explains to her grandmother that she is able to suppress the curse with her psychokinesis by grabbing onto the aura she sees in Okarun. She adds that everyone carries an aura around them, and she can seize control of it, but only within a small area, adding that she was much stronger at the time her powers were awakened. After learning this, Momo's grandmother tells Momo to close her eyes and rely on her sense of touch to suppress Okarun's curse. Momo attempts to do as she's instructed, but unfortunately fails, witnessing Turbo Granny starting to take over Okarun's body. Being unable to hold it in anymore, Okarun rushes to the bathroom and tries to outrun Momo and her grandmother as they try to stop him. While suppressing Okarun's curse while he is on the toilet, Momo hears her grandmother telling her that her full power may be lying dormant inside her and needs further training to be able to release it. Suddenly, Momo notices her grandmother's nose bleeding and is shocked to find Turbo Granny inside the bathroom. Turbo Granny informs Momo that she is only communicating with her through Okarun, and reveals her ability to harm anyone who has laid eyes on Okarun, such as her grandmother, due to the curse. Aware that Momo is training to take her down, Turbo Granny demands that Momo come to the tunnel tonight, threatening to start randomly killing people if she refuses. After the Turbo Granny makes her leave, Momo regains the ability to communicate with her grandmother in Okarun. Momo's grandmother, noticing her bleeding and a burnt talisman, asks Momo about what happened. Before leaving for the tunnel, Momo's grandmother provides them with clothing capable of protecting them from evil spirits. She hugs Momo, asking her to return alive. The two then depart on a bicycle and later are seen on the train to the tunnel. Momo becomes furious with Turbo Granny for harming her grandmother and swears to make her pay. Soon after, Okarun and Momo arrive at the tunnel, entering together and discuss their plan to defeat Turbo Granny. Though Momo believes that fighting against Turbo Granny might be easy compared to their battle with the aliens, the two become surprised to see an enlarged Turbo Granny blocking both the entrance and exits to the tunnel. Momo then attempts to attack the evil spirit with bats she manipulates, but Turbo Granny effortlessly destroys them with her mouth-shaped eyes. Okarun suggests to Momo to release his curse so that he can use his powers. Unfortunately, Turbo Granny counteracts this by returning Okarun's genitals, leaving him powerless. As the Turbo Granny prepares to eat them from both sides, Momo, recalling her grandmother's words, challenges the evil spirit to a game of tag, questioning if she is as fast as she claims. Surprised by the challenge after being underestimated, Turbo Granny stops her attack, reverts to her original form, and accepts the challenge. Turbo Granny questions the rules, asking where the finish line is. Momo responds that there isn't a finish line, and instead, they are playing a game of tag. She asks that if Turbo Granny can catch both her and Okarun, she wins. Momo then instructs Turbo Granny to count to 10 minutes before beginning to give them a head start, emphasizing that it's the only rule Turbo Granny must obey. The two immediately try to escape after Turbo Granny starts counting to 10. However, Okarun sees Momo suddenly captured by a multitude of hands coming from Turbo Granny. As Momo is held captive, Okarun notices her counting in a peculiar manner. Okarun yells at the Turbo Granny for cheating, but she explains that she was not forbidden from counting to 10 in a specific way. Okarun then starts to panic after Turbo Granny finishes counting down his 10 minutes. With no decisive plan to save Momo, Okarun attacks Turbo Granny by biting onto her breast. In a state of panic and annoyance, Turbo Granny suggests to get Okarun off of her due to the clothes he is wearing. Failing to shake him off, she resorts to fully possessing him. To put an end to the situation, Turbo Granny forcefully removes the clothes, preparing to consume Momo. However, recalling her grandmother's lesson on using her sense of touch to use her powers, Momo tightly squeezes the Turbo Granny's aura, setting her ablaze, effectively sealing her within Okarun. Then, Okarun reverts to normal and frees Momo from her confinement with a kick. After succeeding in capturing Turbo Granny, Momo and Okarun panic as the bound spirit emerges through the tunnel and pursues them in an attempt to rescue the Turbo Granny. Momo and Okarun run for their lives as the bound spirit chases after them. Okarun asks Momo why the bound spirit takes the form of a crab, as he learns that once the dead cross the river to the other world, they transform into freshwater crabs. Okay, hold up. Is this an actual thing? Editor, can we fact check this here? Thanks. Anyway, just as the spirit readies to attack, Okarun, utilizing Turbo Granny's speed in its cursed state, carries Momo on his back. Struggling to control his speed, Okarun runs through a traffic ramp, causing them to fall from a considerable height with Momo yelling in terror. In a creative maneuver, Okarun begins kicking his legs repeatedly, mimicking a helicopter, allowing them to descend somewhat safely to the ground. However, the massive shadow from the spirit crab is quickly revealed as it launches itself near them, causing a tremendous commotion in the town. Momo observes that it has faces all over its back, but more bizarrely, the public seems completely oblivious to the presence of the spirit crab. After Okarun tells Momo that he is almost at his limit running, Momo comes up with an idea and instructs Okarun to lure the bound spirit crab into an onsen. Knowing that crabs are vulnerable to boiling water, Momo uses her powers to pull down a pipe with flowing hot water onto the spirit crab in the bathhouse. This tactic slows down and weakens the creature, providing Momo and Okarun with the opportunity to escape Shono City. However, the two find themselves ambushed by possessed citizens after Turbo Granny and the bound spirit crab summon the spirits from a nearby cemetery to trap Momo and Okarun. Turbo Granny then declares to the duo that she and the bound spirit will not allow them to escape from Shono City as they are surrounded from the emerging threats. With no other option to escape the mob of possessed humans, Okarun transforms into his Turbo Granny form and carries Momo as he rushes through the crowd. However, the extreme speed takes a toll on both of them, leading to Momo accidentally releasing the Turbo Granny inside Okarun. After kicking them away, which knocks Okarun out cold, Turbo Granny declares that she will not forgive the both of them for what they have done. She proceeds to fuse herself with the bound spirit crab, further mocking the two, and prepares to engage in a game of cat and mouse with Momo. Though Turbo Granny gives Momo a few minutes to run away, Momo boldly responds that she will escape in 1 second. Utilizing her psychic powers, she grabs onto a moving train, determined to outsmart Turbo Granny. It's revealed that the moving train that they are on travels at a speed of 120 kilometers per hour, making it impossible for Turbo Granny, known as the 100 kilometer per hour Granny, to catch up to them. Momo taunts Turbo Granny, calling her a slowpoke, which infuriates her. Turbo Granny quickly uses her speed to leap and latch onto the moving train. She asserts that her speed speed is consistently maintained at 100 kilometers per hour, taking advantage of the train's reduced speed on curves. However, Turbo Granny quickly realizes that she had been tricked into following Momo after the girl reveals that her grandmother had set up a trap on the railway leading to Kamikoshi City. Using her powers to restrain Turbo Granny from escaping, Momo successfully defeats the Turbo Granny fuse-bound spirit crab the moment they fall into the trap, causing it to ignite in flames. As she watches the exorcism of the Turbo Granny fuse-bound spirit crab crying out in agony, Momo suddenly witnesses multiple schoolgirls emerging from the spirit and vanishing from the exorcism. Following the defeat of Turbo Granny, Momo, Okarun, and her grandmother revisit the tunnel where the Turbo Granny and the bound spirit crab previously resided to pay their respects. Momo then learns from her grandmother that the tunnel used to be the crime scene of multiple murders of young girls, and that the Turbo Granny came to the tunnel to console the spirits of the deceased girls, since they were unable to pass on to the afterlife. Before making their leave, Momo's grandmother also explains to Momo the rules of coexistence between the dead and the living, and that she is glad that Momo did not get hurt. Later, the three then celebrate their victory over the spirit crab, with Momo and her grandmother playfully fighting over the food, and the grandmother teasingly harassing Okarun about wanting to see if he actually has any genitals. Soon after, Okarun bids farewell to Momo as he prepares to go home, gaining a look of reassurance after Momo tells him that she will meet him again at school tomorrow. The next day at school, Okarun wonders how he should say hello to Momo when he meets her again. To his surprise, he sees Momo waiting outside, though he assumes she is expecting someone else. However, Momo approaches him and asks why it took him so long to arrive. To see what they're going to do next, you're going to want to click right here.